Good day, everyone. I'm going to give another minute or two here to get things started. Welcome to the third in our Rev Up digital series. So, as I said, this is the third in a series of 8 web sessions that we're doing that are focused on teams working remotely. We recognize this as something that was a priority as Revizto is being utilized on a regular basis by our customers to help them facilitate even a larger amount than normal of remote users that are having to coordinate on BIM projects. So today's focus will be all hands on deck, inviting and managing users. So what we'll do is we'll get into a number of best practices and tips and tricks related to bringing users on board. We have a very interesting panel discussion that will lead off our session here today as I'm bringing in Kirk, Stalkie from NORR and Patrick Lalonde from EllisDon. And both are based out of the Ottawa region. We were originally going to have this as an Ottawa event, so I wanted to still focus on our beautiful capital here in Canada. That doesn't mean that all you folks from other places in the world aren't going to get a full amount of information. You just have to ignore the extra hockey references and the occasional use of the word "boot." If you can get over those things, I think that we can give you a lot of good information to deal with. So right out of the gate, I want to throw a couple of quick tips at you even before we get started here. This is one of my favorite things to do when I'm having a presentation. Here I've got Revizto open, I've got Zoom open to be able to do a presentation. So instead of having PowerPoint or Google Slides open, I like to have my slides imported in from PDF straight into Revizto. So here I am in Revizto right now. I'm in the 2D section. When I go over here, you can see that I've actually imported these PDFs into a folder here inside of my 2D section of the software. And now that I have these slides in here, I'm going to be able to move forward and backwards through those slides here. So this is a nice way for those of you that run coordination meetings that you might have a presentation related to the project that you want to share. This is a really nice way to be able to incorporate a presentation into a collaboration meeting that you're having. So one other quick tip I'm going to throw in even before we get started. See, even before we've gone through one PowerPoint slide, I'm going to give you 2 tips. The second one is in preferences here. So I went up to preferences and the default screen for projects. I like to start in 2D, but I could start in issue tracker or 3D if I want. This is something that's worth noting as we're here to talk about users today and trying to seamlessly bring new users on board Revizto. You might have users that are going to be most comfortable starting out in the 2D workplace with 2D drawings, or perhaps that they're just in the heart of dealing with issues on a regular basis. You can find the default screen for them here that you can set inside of your preferences, and then every time they open up Revizto project, that will take them to the appropriate area. So there's your 2 tips right to start out with getting a PowerPoint presentation in and to be able to set in your preferences which view that you're into. So I'm here today with David Ray, who's part of our Revizto customer success team. David is our architectural specialist, and when we get into the actual agenda, David will be working with me on that. One of the things I wanted to give you a quick summary of, I mentioned that this is the third in the series. Our next 3 of our digital series are already listed here. So if you've registered at the website for any of these, you can add on to those if any of these seem like something that would have some value to you. Our Revizto team is working really hard to make sure that we can deliver some things to you that will help you out as you're dealing more remotely. So here's a basic overview of our agenda today. We should be just a bit over an hour. I expect that our panel discussion will be 20 to 25 minutes, and then our user management demonstration in the workspace in Revizto should take us close to 2 o'clock. We'll have a Q&A session at the end of that. One of our North American directors. Greg Keller is working the background here for me. He'll be jumping on board. So if you want to jump into the chat and Zoom and type out any questions, please feel free to put them in there. I'll try to cover what ones I can at the end of the session, but Greg should be able to answer most of them right there in the chat for you. And then the other part of this session today, this is the part that won't be recorded, so you got to stay on to the end. Sorry to play a Hollywood blockbuster game with you here, but we're going to be giving you a preview, a sneak peek of Revizto 5.0. This is our most ambitious update that we've had in the history of Revizto. We're very excited about it. The things that we've shared with some of our customers have gotten them very excited about it. This is going to change how Revizto interacts with a BIM model. It's going to give you tools and capabilities to interrogate a model and to be able to interact with that model in ways that you probably never thought you'd ever see inside of Revizto. We'll give you a sneak peek of that here at the end of this session. So, integrated collaboration platform. That's what we refer to with Revizto, that we're not a model viewer, we're not an issue tracker, we're not a federation device. We're all of those things, but we're a lot more than that. And the idea is that we coined the term the integrated collaboration platform because we recognized that there wasn't really another term that described what it is that we do. And the title says it all, really. I'll break down a couple things here about it. Is specifically, we're a platform. We're not a plugin. We're not a website. We are a authoring. We're a platform that takes your authored BIM models, your 2D data, and everything else into a single platform. You don't need to have BIM skills or experience to use Revizto. You don't need to have a license of an authoring tool to be able to use Revizto. Revizto is a standalone platform. And as a standalone platform, we also can take it out into the field. We don't need a persistent internet connection to work with it. The other aspects of our integrated collaboration platform clearly are that we integrate with an enormous amount of authoring tools. So whether you're working in Revit or Tekla, whether you're working in Bentley products, it doesn't really matter what you're authoring your project in or any combination of those. You can bring those into Revizto, and you're going to be able to integrate among your entire project team, whether that's project managers, whether it's your technical BIM team, or it's your superintendents and contract administrators in the field. The idea is to have an integrated platform that can be used by an integrated workforce. And then that comes down to the final, most important aspect of Revizto, and it's the real-time collaboration. So once we get everything inside of Revizto, you have the ability in here to interact with it in VR. You have the ability to interact with your point clouds. You have the ability to interact with your reports and your data that's associated with your project. The idea with Revizto is to be able to create a single, clear platform that unifies all of these into one central tool, that so you know that when you have issues, when you have things that you have to address, that you're going to be able to find them in the same place with powerful tools to be able to filter them and report on this information. So that being said, one of the things that I wanted to also highlight here are a couple of initiatives that we have going out with Revizto currently. One is that well, I'll tell a little story, actually. I was working early in the morning on a Monday morning, and at 6 in the morning, I was sending some stuff back and forth on Slack, and our CEO, Armin, reaches out to me and said, "Dan, do you have a minute for to talk to me?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I went downstairs away from where my kid and my wife were sleeping, and Armin got on Slack with me and said he had this great idea. He'd been thinking about it all weekend. He really wanted to put something in place for our users, something that was going to reward them, something that was going to make life easier for them with everything that we were dealing with globally with COVID-19. The feedback he'd gotten from our customers had really weighed on him, I think, and he came to me and he said, "Look, what I'd really like to do is I'd like to put this, I'd like to put a promotion. I'd like to double the user counts. I'd like to push this out to people. I want to make it easy for them, and I want to make it available to everybody, and I don't want to make them have to do a thing for it." And I thought it was just amazing. It made me really proud to be part of this organization for sure. But what was amazing was that on Tuesday, he'd gone over it with our marketing team and our senior management team, and we had a plan, and it was rolled out, and nobody who uses Revizto had to do a thing to see their current user counts doubled. And that was a 60-day doubling of the user counts to help them facilitate that. So that's currently available to you. If those of you who may not be aware of it, you've got double user counts right now. The other thing that we have as an initiative right now is a 30-day free trial. And this is kind of rare for us. As a collaboration software, a trial doesn't always work. It doesn't always give you the exposure that you necessarily need. We usually use a paid proof of concept for that. But because the situation is so precarious that we're in right now, we really wanted to take those people who've been on the fence, who've been looking at Revizto or kicking the tires on it, and give them a chance to really get 30 days. So we'll roll it out with a kickoff and weekly check-ins with you to give you a chance for 30 days to have unlimited users to be able to explore what Revizto can do. So those are a couple of initiatives we have right now that we've rolled out to try to make life easier and better for those that are being impacted by the coronavirus. So today, in my panel, I've got representatives from two major companies here in Canada. As I said, both of the users are based out of the Ottawa area. EllisDon, we're in our third year of engagement with EllisDon. They use us across all their licenses, across their offices throughout Canada. EllisDon works on projects of every type and shape all across Canada and overseas as well. And we're very fortunate to get to know a number of the users that we've worked with. But Patrick, I got to meet him back at an event in Halifax a couple of years ago, and we've gotten to know each other very well. One of the reasons that I brought Patrick in, this is very similar to why I brought Kirk in here as well today, is that these two gentlemen are leaders in BIM in Ottawa, working on major capital projects, but they also play key roles in Algonquin College's BIM program as well. So they have a distinctly different perspective that comes from having worked on major projects, but also working with students that are making their way in the field. So very excited to hear what Patrick has to share with us today. And as I mentioned, the other company represented here is NORR, and NORR, we've been working with them for this is just our first year working with NORR. NORR has multiple offices across Canada, also offices in the US and the UK, a design and engineering and planning organization. They do a wide variety of projects, and those projects vary by the specific offices. Again, we're very fortunate to have Kirk Stalkie here today, and Kirk comes from, again, this background. He's a design technology manager, whereas Patrick is a VDC coordinator for EllisDon. And Kirk plays a leadership role again in the Ottawa BIM market, but also again works with Algonquin College. So there's some very clear and different sort of messaging that we get from having both these gentlemen here today. So I'm very fortunate to have them both. I wanted to share this final slide that Kirk had shared with me because there is an opportunity there to link up for any of you that are in the Ottawa region or curious about what's going on in Canada's capital. They're connected here digitally as well. So with that being said, I'm going to invite Patrick and Kirk in on this conversation. Essentially, what we're going to be doing here in this conversation is a real open panel. I didn't want to get into a big PowerPoint overview of a bunch of different projects, but rather have some conversation about what specifically they have to share related to getting new users into the digital collaboration process. So we're going to talk mainly about four key elements here: how they've been using Revizto and what user roles exist in their workflow between EllisDon as a GC and NORR as a design firm. We're also going to get into a little bit of discussion about the technology stack. This question comes up pretty regularly when I'm talking to people. So we'll share a little bit about how they're communicating on their projects with the role that Revizto plays, but also how it sits in the stack of tools that they're utilizing. Additionally, we'll get into how they brought new users into Revizto in the first place, and any tips they have about making the transition to getting people into digital workflow. And then finally, we'll get into the future of BIM collaboration as they've been working with new users that have come in through their firms, but also have been dealing with hundreds of students through the Algonquin College program. So with that said, welcome Kirk and Patrick.
Thanks, Dan. Happy to be here.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Kirk. Thanks, Patrick. So maybe we'll start right out of the gate here with I'll start with you, Kirk. Actually, you've had Revizto in place at NORR for less than a year, but you've been exposed to it through Algonquin College longer than that. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you saw when you were pushing to bring Revizto in, and then kind of how that's rolled out with the users that you brought in?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so like you said, I started using it at Algonquin, I think for a semester, which was really, I guess, only one or two classes, but yeah, working with it at Algonquin before I brought it to NORR, and just seeing how quickly our students could pick it up, and how much capability it had. I knew it was something we needed to get at NORR. Like one of the challenges we were facing before is losing information about reviews and doing markups. We were using a combination of Bluebeam and paper. Like paper was used quite a bit because sometimes it's just easier to draw on a piece of paper, you know. And there was a bit of like a hesitation for some of our senior PMs to get into a really big BIM workflow. Seeing the ease of use for it at Algonquin, I knew that it was like an easy decision, easy to convince NORR to jump on board with this. Yeah, so we've been using it for about a year now. The transition into it was pretty seamless. The training didn't take too much time. It's a pretty intuitive tool, and just right away people could see the value of it. So the adoption was pretty easy when you compare it to a lot of the other BIM tools we try and take on.
So what kind of roles at NORR have gotten involved with Revizto so far?
So we tried to simplify it as much as we could. So we have an administrator role, so setting up projects and everything. And then we have a power user role who has almost all the same permissions as an administrator, with a couple exceptions. So those are really like only one or two people on a project will have that. And then the rest of the project teams are split into two different levels. So we have a technologist level. So these are going to be the people who are being assigned issues, doing the work in Revit, and actually getting work assigned to them. And then we also have a project management or job captain level. So these are the people who are leading the reviews, making the comments, assigning the tasks. And the reason we set it up that way is because the technologists, their level, we didn't allow them to close issues. Only the project managers can close issues. And we did that so that we always get a final double check of everything we're working on, just to make sure that things were done correctly. Maybe there's always a chance that maybe something was misunderstood or not communicated properly. So we always get that second chance for the project manager to review those issues and close them out on their own.
Perfect. Thanks, Kirk. Now, Patrick, EllisDon's had Revizto. We're just going into I think our third year now at EllisDon. And how long have you been using it at EllisDon, and did you get exposed to it before or after that with Algonquin?
Yeah, I first got exposed to it with EllisDon. Yeah, about 3 years ago is when we signed our sort of first agreement with you guys to bring in Revizto on a bit of a trial basis. And I got it up and running on a few projects here in Ottawa, and I really liked it. And this was right around the same time I got on board with Algonquin to start developing the course for the BIM Lifecycle Management Program. And the course that I was responsible for was workflow and collaboration. So, you know, naturally, Revizto was a very good fit to incorporate into the curriculum for that program, because that is sort of the topic that we're discussing, and how, you know, multidiscipline teams and, you know, located in different areas are supposed to work and collaborate together. And so, yeah, Revizto is just a natural fit at Algonquin. So I brought that in, and it worked out really well.
Perfect. Now, I'm going to go a little sideways on the question about roles, because I know that I know just from the experience in working with you guys that you've got some projects where you built Revizto into your sort of execution plan with bringing subs and trades and partners in on your projects. Have you had any experience in that, working with the roles of other players on projects?
Yeah. So typically, what we do is, when we during construction, we bring all our sub-trades on board, and we have a BIM kickoff meeting where we sit down together and we talk about you know, what softwares we're using, what sort of collaboration procedures that we want to put in place to manage the BIM process during construction and fabrication. So, and one of the things that we talk about is using Revizto, because we have that platform in place with EllisDon, and we have a user agreement that allows us to have enough licenses to distribute to our subtrade partners. So once we sort of establish that, you know, we want to use Revizto as our main form of communication and collaboration with the BIM model, we get them licenses, and they have that installed on their machines, and we sort of move forward with collaborating in the Revizto platform.
Perfect. So maybe do both of you guys, is Revizto part of your coordination meeting management that you do? Yeah.
So like, you know, I remember the pre-Revizto days where we managed all of our meetings with Navisworks. You know, we would have to keep like sort of a separate Excel spreadsheet, or we managed all our issues with in meeting minutes. And now that, you know, Revizto is our sort of our main platform to host and manage our issues, that's our agenda for the meeting. So we essentially can filter and group our issues based on what needs to be discussed in that meeting, and that list of issues is what gets discussed, and you go through item by item, and that forms our meeting agenda and how we proceed.
Perfect. So we'll get into your current technology stack, just a kind of a breakdown of how you guys are getting by in a world where you both are working remotely. I know that we're in a situation here where a lot of the construction has been going forward. There's been some construction that's been stalled, but it certainly does seem like the BDC and BIM part of the projects across Canada have been working fine. So what are you guys using for technology stacks to manage your projects and to keep communicating to your project team? Of course, you can say that Revizto is your favorite, but if you want to list any of those other ones, that'd be good.
So yeah, so I'll answer this one first. I think so. Obviously, we use Revizto as our sort of our main 3D platform. That's what we use to host the BIM models, to host the collaboration coordination meetings, and that's what we have to use on our mobile devices as well. And then our second critical piece of software is FieldWire. FieldWire is essentially our 2D drawing, construction drawing platform, where we're also able to have all of the construction drawings on our mobile tablets and on a web-based interface. And then the third one is Google Drive. You know, we are on the Google platform at EllisDon, and we host all of our drawings or information that is not drawing or model related in the Google Drive. And then our fourth piece of software is Gate3, which is an EllisDon proprietary construction management software. And that's what we use to manage our RFIs and official communications and documentation. So between those four softwares, that's sort of what we use.
Great, thanks. And Kirk?
Yeah, so we're using Revizto a lot more day to day, I guess. Like before, that was definitely where we would do our reviews during coordination meetings, but now that's kind of our main form of communicating problems with the drawings or doing our reviews. That's kind of the first place everyone's going to see what's going on the projects. On top of that, we have the Microsoft 365 platform. So we're using Teams a lot to do communication with each other, tying that in with Planner to assign tasks outside of like drawing or model related issues, using SharePoint, everything like that, and doing a lot of Teams calls and screen sharing.
Yeah,
that is it's crazy now. It's like all you do is, it seems like you're on Teams all day, but we found it's a really good tool to communicate. It's a lot easier than email. We've set up different groups for each project, so everyone can keep track of what's going on the projects and keep up to date. So we found the combination of those two to be really helpful.
Yeah, we use Slack here at Revizto, and that's the way that we kind of keep ourselves plugged in real time to different users as well. And I think that's part of why I wanted to share that, is everybody has got their challenges right now in terms of figuring out how they're connecting with each other. And Revizto certainly does allow you to communicate your issues in real time and be able to look at the 2D and 3D, but you end up having to rely on Zoom and Teams and Slack and Google and everything else. So thanks for sharing that, guys. So in terms of acclimating new users, when we had this conversation last week in preparation for this event, I was pleased by the fact that you guys kind of commented on the fact that you had already had Revizto in place and trained up your users prior to having to make the transitions around dealing with the COVID-19. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about how that went for you? Maybe start with Kirk.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so like you said, we've been using Revizto already. We've been pretty integrated with it on all of our projects. Since we've got it, like it's not even a question anymore about whether we should deploy it on a project. It's just, yes, we use it on a project because it gives so many advantages. So in terms of switching from being in office to purely remote, it hasn't really had a major effect on how we coordinate. We're still using the same tools. We're just relying on them a little bit more. So instead of being able to go face-to-face with someone to clarify something, now we just do a virtual or like a call through Teams or something. But in terms of using Revizto, like it's been basically the same process. One thing that we've been doing is that so not everyone in our office has a laptop. So we've been doing remote desktoping for some people. And just with everyone in the entire world using the internet all day now, yeah, sometimes there's a little bit of a delay with that. But what's nice with Revizto is they can install it on their home computers and get that working a lot more effectively, not having any delay through the remote. So that's been nice as well. That's really been the only change in terms of workflow. At Algonquin, just how the timing worked, our first class, so Algonquin canceled all in-person classes and switched to an online format. And our first online class was actually Revizto. So that was pretty interesting. But it went pretty smoothly. Like just sent an email or just assigned everyone a license. Revizto sent them an email. They installed it, and we had them trained in about an hour, and then they went right ahead and did their assignment. So even like the onboarding process is pretty much the same as if we were in an office as well. So it's been very smooth for us.
That's awesome to hear. And Patrick, anything you'd like to add related to bringing new users into Revizto at EllisDon?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, definitely at EllisDon, we did have to bring new people onto Revizto, and you don't have the ability to to have sort of that in-person sort of training session or in-person discussion. We sort of just say you're invited. When they get set up on a new project or we invite them to a project, they receive the email to sign up and download the software. And I typically just point them to, what resources Revizto has in place for basic, interface training and functionality. And I rarely get any more questions than that. That's always enough to get them started. And then I kind of let them go through that at their own self-pace, and then I follow up with them a few days later or a little while later to kind of talk them through the project-specific things. So getting someone new on board is relatively seamless. It doesn't require a huge sort of training session, personal training session. And like the other thing, when it comes to user management, and at Algonquin, it's been quite helpful because we typically have lots of students coming, new students leaving and new students coming in. And we're actually able to see, the activity of those students when they get online, how many times they've logged in, if they have logged in or not. So, getting those sort of insights into the activity of the users is sort of beneficial for us as instructors to see who's actually taking the time to log into the software and use the software.
Perfect. One other thing I will add about this while we're talking about it is that one of the things that is a distinctive difference about the way that Revizto operates compared to a lot of technologies in the BIM space is we have a dedicated customer success team that works with our customers globally, and both EllisDon and NORR have had training sessions and implementation and kickoff sessions from our customer success team, just to make sure that those firms that are coming across any obstacles or hiccups in the transition, to please feel free to reach out directly to us. Our customer success team are incredibly skilled and expert level people that come straight out of industry, and we've got a cross section of them. So it's worth mentioning that as intuitive as the software is, not every project that you have is going to be cookie cutter. So you're going to have extra challenges, and we're here to help with that. So the final thing that just in terms of a comment, because you're working with multiple companies on the projects you're working with and with your students, do you have any particular view related to the future of collaborating in BIM and how a platform like Revizto might fit into that, and whether it seems like this is is that the people that are in this are recognizing the value of dealing with it every day. And I'll start with Patrick this time.
So the one thing that I see as the biggest advantage, you know, in the future of collaboration is the fact that you know, Revizto is a proprietary and fairly agnostic software. That's like one of the main things I really enjoy about it. I find it, you know, the nature of the software industry is sort of consolidating into the big Autodesks and Bentleys and ecosystems. So it's very refreshing to, you know, when you're working with lots of different firms and organizations, to have something that's very neutral, that anyone can sign up to and log in and collaborate on relatively easy without having to, you know, subscribe to a particular ecosystem.
Awesome. And Kirk?
Yeah, I agree with everything Patrick is saying. I think one of the biggest barriers we've had to BIM adoption has been how difficult it is to learn the tools. Like I've been using Revit for, like, I don't know, almost 10 years now, and there's still stuff that I'm learning on it, like almost every time I use it, you know. Like, it's just such a big program that does so many things, and that's necessary, right? But I think for BIM to truly get completely permeated in the industry, you need to lower the barriers of entry, and I think Revizto really helped with that, because bringing in more senior people with more experience, more executives into this workflow, that's just going to improve your project so much more. Another thing I see happening is the use of data on a bigger, more frequent basis. So we've been using Revit to pull out data and get information of model health, and we've begun experimenting with that with Revizto as well, pulling all of the issue data out and putting it in the same Power BI templates that we're using for model health. So it's not a Revit model health dashboard anymore, it's a project dashboard. So I see a lot of value in that. And yeah, for me, that's what's going to be the next big thing, I think, is getting that data.
That's awesome. Well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate your insight and share on what you've been doing with Revizto. I know you work with great projects all the time, and you work with a couple of great firms here in Canada. So I thank you for taking time out to share that with us today. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Dan.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
And hopefully we'll sometime within the next coming months we'll actually be able to break bread and maybe shake hands again. So
looking forward to it.
Yeah, can't wait.
Thanks, guys. So with that said, I appreciate these guys sharing their insight on this. Our next step of our overview here today is to get into the actual technical aspects of working with users in Revizto. So for those that might be new to Revizto or not involved with the management side, I'll take a minute to kind of talk about the fact that Revizto uses a username-based licensing. So in other words, if I want to invite a member of my project team into a project, all I have to do is go in either through the software or our workspace and invite them in, and with that username, they will get an email that will show them the project they were just invited to, gives them a link to be able to download the software, and then they could jump in. Now, the roles of each user are going to be determined by administrators on that project, and we'll talk about those things with David right now. We'll actually get into that, but I wanted to talk a little bit about how that works. So I'm going to turn things over to you. Actually, David, you can just take over the screen now if you'd like to.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dan. And thanks, everyone, for taking the time today. We really appreciate it. So what I'll do, as Dan mentioned, is kind of run through just a brief overview of how to get users in at a license level with Revizto, and then go into at the actual project level and how to invite people into those projects once on the license. So initially, I want to start out here in the Revizto application, just to show that there's two different ways to get to the web-based workspace, right? So you can go to the Revizto website and log in, but there's also an avenue to take here in Revizto itself. So you can go to the issue tracking environment in Revizto, and then the envelope with the letter sticking out of it takes you to the web-based workspace. You get a couple different screens going either way. So from the website, you'll go to the license page. From the Revizto application, you'll actually go to the project workspace. But from here, what you can do is, and I guess I'll mention also, a few weeks ago, we released an update to our web-based workspace. So if this looks a little different, we've made some major changes here. So the way you get to your license and license admin tools, there's going to be two drop downs up here at the top toolbar. So you'll see where you can select your license. And then when you get into under tools, you'll see license management tools here. So that's where we can get into our user directory. And give that a minute to load. So yeah, this is where we can see all the different users on this specific license. This is where we can add users to this license. So this is one thing that's not going to change from the old workspace to the new. Simply, as always with Revizto, the users will be email based. So you simply type in the email, select the license role for that user, and then you can assign a tag as well, which ties into our filtering system for the user workspace. So you can either select a tag, or if I need to add a tag, you would just type that in here. So maybe I have a mechanical consultant, and you'll notice if it recognizes it as a new tag, I can go to add that as a new tag in the workspace. So again, as I mentioned, one of the major changes here is the filtering system. So up here at the top toolbar, I think in the original workspace, it was over here to the left as a filtering system. But this is where we can come in here and quickly get to specific status of a user. So if we want to see everybody that's maybe deactivated on the license and be able to select those users and reactivate them, we can do so. We can also get into our different roles in the project, as well as tags. And as I mentioned, as you bring users in, you can assign them a tag. You can also, if they've been brought into the project or license, excuse me, you can select those users and then go to edit tags if you want to add a tag there. But the benefit to that is with your tags, you can quickly get to those users. For example, if you've brought a bunch of users in, maybe they're your structural consultant, and you can also further select tags to filter for. So maybe it's a structural consultant, and I've added a tag, for a certain project. So I can, just as an example, select my structural tag, and then maybe that project, just using that as an example. And this is where we can quickly get to these users. Again, multi-select these different users, deactivate them, reactivate, set new roles, or other things here in the workspace. Another nice thing about tagging within the license workspace is we can actually get up here to our activity report. So this is where we can generate a report and see the activity across the license. So we can filter for the entire license here and give it a time interval, but we can also get pretty detailed by selecting these tags we might have tag different users in this workspace. There's also a nice feature here of the guest activity, and guests might be somebody outside of your license that has a Revizto seat, so we can actually untoggle and toggle that as a view filter.
If I could bring up an example, David, of tag use that's come up with a couple of customers that we worked with, that with the double user promotion that's going on right now, I've had a couple of firms that have brought those extra users in and gave them specific tags so they can see how those new users are doing with activity levels, so they can quickly break them out from their core users that they had before, so they can determine what the use cases are for these new users and how they're working in the software as well.
Yep, great point, Dan. So other than that, I wanted to point out we can also export this information out as an Excel file as well. So yeah, that's how, it's in summary, that's how we get users into the license. And then from there, you'll go to the specific project and be able to invite users on that license into the project. So it kind of happens at, 2 tiers. First the license, then the project. So if I go, you'll notice I went back to my tools. I can go to my projects or recent projects. And actually get into the dashboard here for that project. So this is where I can get into my project team, and then any of those users I added in on this license, I can start adding to this project. So notice these are everybody that's in this project. From here, I can set a project role, send out an email, or even remove them from the project. So to get these people in the project, you'll enter their email in here, and then you'll set the project role. And what the difference from the license level to the project role is, this is going to be all the interaction that they have access to within the Revizto application. So if I select manage roles, this is where I can either edit these roles and save as a new role, or some of the ones I have already in this project, for instance, BIM manager, maybe coordinator, architect, things like that. And then also one of the enhancements to the new web-based workspace is we've categorized all of these things you can do in the Revizto application. So things you can do in the issue tracker, things as it relates to model content, and then also exporting from Revizto. So you'll notice a lot of this is grayed out. There's an administrative rights up here that if I untoggle, I can kind of go down the line here and select what I want users to do within Revizto itself. So maybe, maybe I want to create a client role here, that I want to invite a client into the project. And maybe they don't necessarily need to create issues or comment on issues. So I can limit access with that. And I think as Kirk mentioned at the beginning of the call, closing issues is another one that we see quite frequently used. Maybe you want to limit some of the users within Revizto from closing issues, just to ensure it has that one last final check. And yeah, Dan, any other examples you can think of?
Well, I think that's a great example that you just gave. But I think one of the things to remember related to roles is that essentially roles are a bucket of capabilities that you have. So you can go through and you can customize a specific role that has just the particular permissions that you want. The idea of creating roles in here is to give you that ability to have a pull-down menu that you can pick administrator, you can pick content creator, and have a specific set of rules that you have vetted that you think is appropriate for that group. So, to use these to try to do everything you can to rapidly get people up and running with the appropriate permissions. One other reminder also in Revizto is that Revizto is your coordination model, so it's a non-destructive environment, and you can rely on the fact that you're inviting people in here, but they're not doing anything to your project. So these are really the controls you have over how they're coordinating with that model.
Yep.
So yeah, if you're set with that and you want to go into Revizto user controls, then I think we've given a nice summary here of the workspace.
Absolutely. So the project roles actually happen in two different places. So in the web-based workspace, and then if I get into Revizto itself, once the project has been published to the cloud, that's where I can come up here to share. And then same thing as we looked at in the web-based workspace. I would just type an email in here, set their access level, and then invite them to the specific project. So we can also manage access levels from here as well. So picking the different things we can do in Revizto, excuse me, and then saving that as a new level. So one quick tip I want to mention here, just as an efficiency thing, once you have a good set of access levels and maybe a common user group here, you can come up to the project tab and go to import export settings and then start to reuse some of those users and user permissions. So once they're in one project, you can actually move them in and out of other projects. So maybe one project worked really well and you want to import the settings from this project into this project, you can do so. And along with you know, any number of these things up here. So if you have some issue tags or presets, stamp templates, reports and dashboards that worked really well on one project, and you want to bring those into another project, you can do so here.
This really gives you a chance to refine and evolve your processes as you're moving along, where you know, hey, we came out of that project and here's what really worked well, and here's a couple of things that we think we could do better, and you can make those and take what it is that you like, just like David illustrated here.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and then from there you're ready to start coordinating once everybody's in the project and you have you know, all your content within Revizto. You can start using the issue tracker. So one of the things we found most useful that relates to some of those users brought in is you can actually tie assignees in with stamps, which essentially gives you a templated way to communicate different issues. So for example, if I have an architectural category of stamps here, place that stamp within the 3D environment. And then I also have the ability here to mark that up as well if needed. If I need to add more commentary here. And then once I hit done here in the issue tracker, you'll notice that's automatically been assigned out to Dan, who I previously, you know, invited into the project. Has a few watchers added. And from there, we can start to communicate.
And one thing I'll add about the stamps that's really one of the big feedbacks we get from customers is, in the interest of fast tracking adoption of Revizto, there's probably nothing that impacts that adoption rate more than having your stamp set up. To be able to bring a user in, have the things that are relevant to them be assigned to them, and for them to be able to just pick a stamp and know that it's going to be marked up to the right person is a really quick way to get somebody up and running in Revizto, and making sure that the things that they mark up are going to align to your reporting and the statuses that you work in your project with.
Yep. So another few things I'll mention, just quick tips, is you know, once those people have been invited to the project, you're starting to assign issues out to them. We can customize a filter here to quickly get to, you know, maybe those users in here and see all their issues. So you'll notice here in my presets and custom filters, I have, you know, 400 issues. Where I can go into my filtering system here and maybe by assignee if I want to see all of my issues, and then by priority level, so all of my issues that are a major priority level. Then you'll notice that I quickly went from 400 issues down to 1. It gives me a quick way to get to those. So not only can we customize a filter here, but we can also save this filter as a preset. So those can be kept to your user name, or we can share those out project-wide if we want to create a couple filters that everybody needs to see, for example.
That's great, David. I think the only other thing that I think that would be good to touch on is that we attach this data and these users in, and the key part of it is managing those users. So being able to see what how that data ties back into the reporting is always helpful.
Absolutely. So much like the custom filter and presets, we can get back into our project workspace here, and then use things like reports and dashboards to quickly see, what's going on in this project. So great example is here, Brett, the architect in the project. We want to see all of his open issues, and it looks like he has 20 of them. So maybe a good, just visual cue of maybe we need to send this out and get Brett back into Revizto to respond to some of those. We can also, further expand on that, maybe everybody invited in this project and see all their issues and break it down into the different issue statuses. And then, yeah, very customizable, very dynamic with the issue tracker. So as things change in the Revizto issue tracker, if I refresh this page, you'll see these charts update.
And I think that it's that real-time nature of the issue tracker and the reporting that's tied into it that creates a level of accountability that drives your projects towards appropriate delivery times, and gives you the ability to use shame as a powerful tool for getting people to get their stuff done. Anything else? Sorry, David?
No, I know we're getting close on time here. Dan, do you want to open it up to questions?
Yeah, that's what I'll do is I'll take control of the screen again here.
Sure.
And we'll open up any questions that anyone has here. I'm looking. It says, can we say that Revizto is a common data as standard for BIM with ISO 16950? And Greg says we can't officially say that, no. And that would be in line with my answer as well. David, anything you want to add to that?
I would have to verify that, so no, I will not.
Okay, fair point. Anyone else have any questions that they'd like to add? I know this is for those that have been in Revizto for a while. There's probably most of this is pretty straightforward in terms of what we showed today. But if there's no other questions, then what we'll do is you can see that David by emails are up there. If there's any questions that you want to take, conversations you want to take offline, by all means, please feel free to reach out to us.